All right, so looks like we're live. Let me make sure we're set, refresh, make sure we're good. Not yet, still trying. Okay, I think we're good. Hustlebee, can you hear me?
We good.
Okay. All right, Josh, are we good?
Loud and clear, my friend.
All right, cool. So everybody, what's up? Jeff, drummer, Nick, Eric, shout out. And we're just starting out. So we have Josh here. We're going to talk to him selling on eBay, 5,000 active listings. We're going to go and break that detail. Of course, Hustlebee is here in the flesh.
Guys, what's up? Excited about this interview tonight. 5,000 listings ain't easy.
Oh, I know. And
Hustlebee's,
Hustlebee's, there you go, Josh.
Full disclaimer, that was a couple days ago. It is now at 4,955, so it has gone down, but I'm riding that edge.
All right, nice. And Josh was like, "Is it cool if I use this old school camera?" And I was like, "Hey, you don't have to go out of the way to get a new camera. If you're hustling cameras, yeah, you use wherever."
I did get it at a garage sale. It was $2. Can't beat it.
There we go. There we go. So we're gonna talk about his all of his stuff. You can see in the background right there. Liz from Arizona says, "Way to represent, Josh." So we met up Liz out there in Phoenix for the meetup.
Yep, I've ran into her since then as well. She's awesome.
Oh yeah, I think you met her at where Goodwill, or where'd you meet her?
Yeah. It was like a local Goodwill.
Okay, cool. So yeah, Jeff, G. Jasso, and Liz, all of the Phoenix crew up in here that we met up with out there. So that's pretty cool.
Down.
I know. Aaron, Dallas in the house, top hustlers, David. So yeah, Ed, Casey, Steve. So we got some shout outs there. All right. Josh, tell them who you are and what you do, when you started, and then we'll just start breaking down questions here and there.
Yes, sir. Well, as you mentioned, my name's Josh. I'm originally from Sweden. I now live in close to Phoenix, Arizona for the last 10, 12 years, somewhere in the middle there. I sell on eBay strictly, dabble a tiny bit on apps like OfferUp and Craigslist, that type of deal. But I would say about 99% eBay and pretty much clothing and shoes on there. And that is about it. Also, as mentioned, I just hit 5,000 listings on there. And after that milestone, I'm kind of switching it up from there and just seeing where it takes me. I'm a one-man show, so 5,000 items is already pretty hard to juggle, but we'll see what happens moving forward.
So I'm pretty sure, when did you, at this point it has to be like full-time then. And when did you kind of like make that transition?
So I went full-time about a year and a half ago, and I was working full-time at at Frito-Lay, a chip company at the warehouse there, making pretty good money there. 20 bucks an hour, that's not bad. And I was selling on eBay in the meantime. So, I was working 70, 80 hours between the two. And, every 5 minutes at work, I'd be checking my phone to see if I sold anything. And I kept doing that until that eBay portion of it started going pretty well. Then I went to part-time at the day job, did that for another couple months, and then eventually just quit and focused on this full-time. And to be completely honest, I wish I would have waited with that a little bit longer just to kind of bring some more capital in. I was very anxious to just, get out there and do it full-time and didn't really think it through entirely. It worked out, but it would have been easier to, kind of be a little more patient and just stick it out a little further.
Yeah. So like at one point, like so when you were doing that, you're doing it part-time, like how much were you more or less making on eBay part-time before you made that transition to go full-time?
So probably about 1,000 a week.
Okay.
Somewhere around there. A little under that. That'd be a good week at the time. My part-time job, I was making, $250 a week. So I kind of figured just switching out of that and focusing more time on eBay would, long-term be better. But that extra $250 would have really helped with just bumping up the capital that I had to play with. Because once you're full time, I mean, all your expenses are coming out of that, and you can't reinvest as much as you think you can.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. So how did you get into eBay? Like was there somebody that introduced you to eBay or something like that, or did you hear it from a friend or something?
Well, eBay's it's kind of like always been a part of my life. So it started, and I forget which one of these was first. But as a kid, I grew up skateboarding, and I would go to a bunch of events and collect free stickers that they would hand out. You know, every company, like, yeah, like you buy a pair of Vans, it comes with a sticker. I would collect those. And it got to a point that I had about 3,000 of them. And they were
Ah,
just kind of sitting in my room in this big box. I didn't know what to do with them. I didn't want to put them on stuff because, you know, just cover them. So I just held on to them. And then one day I realized, like, wait a second, I could sell these on eBay. Because my grandpa had taught me, you know, kind of what eBay was before that. And this is what I meant by I don't know which one was first. I started selling those. But at one point, I also worked for my grandpa. He collected like Christmas plates, like porcelain plates from
wow.
Denmark. And they were
Uh-huh.
worth quite a bit of money back in the day. They've kind of gone down now, but I sold all of his plates on his eBay account because I was young, and he gave me half the money that I made for selling his products. So that's kind of how I first was introduced to it. As far as clothing, I used to buy clothing at stores like Plato's Closet and Buffalo Exchange. So kind of like, you know, secondhand stores, but it's already kind of picked through for higher end brands.
Yeah, right,
I
right.
used to buy clothes for myself there. And when I got tired of them, I would pretty much just sell them back on eBay for what I had bought them for. So it wasn't like I
Wow.
was spending money.
Right,
Um,
right.
but I did that for a little while, just kind of selling my own personal stuff. And then probably about 2 years ago, 2.5 years ago, I was at a Goodwill with my girlfriend, just kind of looking for, you know, we just moved in an apartment. We're just looking for random home type stuff. And I caught a tank top like out of the corner of my eye, and I thought, wait a second, like I just sold a tank top like that on eBay for $8, and they want $1.50 for it. And this kind of like
Mhm.
light bulb went off. Where I'm like, wait a second, there, you know, there's something here. So I went through that store, and I probably picked out about 100 T-shirts.
Wow.
Bought them all, brought them home. My girlfriend wanted to go home at that point, and I was like, hey, listen, I got to go to another store. So I did. So I went to another store, I bought another 100, and I spent the next couple of days just listing all of that one by one on eBay. I woke up the day after I started doing that, and I had my first sale, and you know, was pretty much convinced right away that, hey, this is gonna work. Let's see where it takes me. And it worked.
Nice. And I guess I want to kind of like talk about how like other people can relate to your story and newbies that eventually want to like quit their boring job that they hate and they want to do reselling, they want to do eBay, they want to do this stuff. Oh man. Okay, how do we start from the beginning on how we can kind of figure this out? So you started to sell some of the stuff and then it kind of grew, but you were still working part-time, and then you kind of did a little bit of both. So now you're doing both of them. How much money did you have? Did you have any money saved when you quit your job?
Yeah, I have probably about 4,000 saved up,
Okay.
which I immediately started kind of funneling into inventory and still kept a little bit of it. But that's kind of the point where I wish I would have stayed at the job a little longer. Because if I would have had more money coming in immediately, I could have, you know, been comfortable putting more in and knowing I still had a little bit in savings and not just taking everything I'd saved and throwing that immediately into product and just kind of, you know, holding my breath and hoping it worked.
And then like at what so at also at that point, how many items did you have in inventory when you quit?
To be honest with you, I don't remember exactly, but I remember I didn't really have a goal. I was just kind of adding stuff. You know, I just continually bought stuff. Stuff was selling. I just bought more and more and more. Started investing more money and getting more items and just kind of grew it that way. And then I got this goal in my head of like, wait a second, I think I could hit 3,000 items. And then I did. And then I thought, well, what now? The only logical thing is 4,000 items. After that, the only logical is 5,000. And now I'm kind of like, I don't want to add more. I just want to raise the value of them.
Right,
but
right.
I think I was probably somewhere around that 3,000 mark when I went full time reselling.
Nice. One thing I want to bring up, Glenn, and you know, Josh mentioned it. I wish I was more prepared, and I think a lot of you know, people that are in transition of doing something get stuck in the middle of, am I prepared enough, or do I need to make more, right?
Yeah.
And this is the typical story of a different arena or a different industry or a different path, because this is somewhat similar in all entrepreneur or all businessman story. Prepared, but the good thing, you know, like now we're talking about how newbies can learn from this, or how people can extract knowledge from this. I probably will not hear anybody that is running a successful business that will say that they were prepared enough,
Hmm.
who
Yeah.
actually took the initiative and you took the jump. And you know, they say change happens when you actually comfortable position. And I think that's where a lot of people get hung up. You know, like they actually stay too long to be prepared. People say like sometimes, I mean, it most of the time it will be uncomfortable to say that I was not prepared, but look at you now. You know, I'm sure you can look back now and say like, man, I may not be prepared, but I sure am so happy that I took that plunge.
Oh, definitely, definitely, yeah.
And I guess, well, I mean, that's a really good point, because I don't think you're ever gonna be 100% prepared for it. Like it just,
Right.
like you just have to do, and then you just go from there. And it's either you're gonna make it or you're not gonna make it. And in this
Mhm.
case, I mean, Josh is doing good. And okay, so 5,000 listings on average. Like, how many items sell per day, would you say?
Anywhere from 10, which is a terrible day, to
Mm.
about 40, which usually about 25 to 30, somewhere in there. And it's my, so also, I mean, you see behind me, a lot of it is t-shirts. So
Yeah.
probably
Mhm.
about 50% of that is just individual t-shirts, which as I sell those, I want to kind of replace it with more valuable stuff, because the average sale price on that is pretty low, which brings like my total average sales price to about 14, which is pretty low still. But
Mhm.
sorry, I totally forgot the question there. What was it again, Glenn?
You're
No, he was just asking about the how many items do you sell. So so let's go back to that again. Like, have you tracked any sales for the week or for the month? Like, how many items do you sell?
Okay, yeah, so about 20 to 30 a day usually on average.
Nice, nice.
And so some of those are, probably 15 of those are, $8 to $12 sales. And then
Mm.
there's a couple of 30s in there, and then maybe one or two higher end items as well. So mostly lower end stuff, which moving forward is what I'm going to try to, bump that up instead of just pushing more items in.
okay. And do you have your? I mean, is your store? Do you share your store with anybody, or is it private, like Hustlebees?
I have never shared my store with anyone, no.
Okay. All right. No, just asking, just in case the questions come in, we're like, hey, where's the store? I want to see it right now. But at
Yeah,
least,
well, I actually have two stores.
oh, okay, cool. Do you want to explain
Yes.
that?
The reason behind it, you mean?
Yeah.
Well, so actually, this was probably a year ago. I went through a similar situation that I saw Ken went through pretty recently,
Yeah.
getting like suspended for kind of a different reason. I sold a Dolce & Gabbana t-shirt that was, I didn't know. I didn't really do my research. It looked legit to me, so I just kind of put it up as an auction for, I started it at $10. It ended up selling for, I think, 40 or 50. And then, I shipped it off, got positive feedback and everything. And then a month later, they came back saying, hey, this was inauthentic. Don't do that again.
Even
Then,
after positive feedback and all of that.
oh yeah, I mean, the transaction was done. I still kept the money and everything. Just, I guess the company that owns the trademark reached out to eBay and told them that, hey, punish this guy or we're coming after you. So they pretty much just take your stuff down immediately if anyone tells them that your listing is in the wrong.
That's crazy.
So It's also happened to me with Monster Energy, like the drink
Yeah.
that aren't authentic. Don't sell that brand unless you know what you're doing, because I got one of those for that as well, and that shut me down for a week. Like a definite, here's like a week where you can't do anything. I could still sell, but not list anything more or relist. So same as you.
Oh man.
But yeah, so at that point I was kind of freaking out because I had a bunch of stuff to list. I'm like, what can I do? My first thought was to start a separate account and see if it worked. And it did.
Yeah.
So I kind of built that up over a week, and then over time I just kind of started adding to both, and just randomly now I have 2 stores.
And so you continually add items to both of the stores then?
Nice.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so now I've started one that I have only t-shirts and shoes on, and then the other one I add anything else, so any like retail arbitrage items, any shorts, pants, stuff like that, I add on the other one. And I have both categories of items on both, but as they kind of sell through, that's what I'm replacing it with. So in, you know, maybe a few months or half a year, they'll have their own kind of separate categories.
Okay, cool. Nice. Ken, I don't want to go back and forth in questions or anything you can think of. If not, then I can go into some other stuff, but
Go ahead.
okay. I guess our next question would be more about sourcing. So where do you go? And is it mostly like thrifting? Do you make some of the Ross, Marshall, some of that in there? Is there anything you can find? Where do you go to source?
So I do a little bit of everything. Like I mentioned, I started with just entirely Goodwill, and that was, you know, that was it. That was all I knew. And then once I built my store up to a decent amount doing that, since the margins, I mean, you really can't beat that. I started adding in a little bit of Ross. I stumbled across on a Black Friday at a local mall here. There was a big sale at a Dillard's, like just a big department store. And I wouldn't really expect to find anything there because they're usually pretty overpriced.
Yeah.
But they were selling board shorts, like swim trunks, for between $8 to $12, obviously new. And retail price is usually 50 to 70 on those. So I bought a bunch of them, and I've been selling them for, you know, 30 to 35 shipped. For the first few months, I sold probably 80%. And I still have a couple of them, not very many. But I mean, that was probably the first big, like, new with tags type purchase I made. And then from there, I started doing, you know, Nike outlets. Actually, I've only been to Burlington once, which was the meetup here in Phoenix. I've done a couple Marshalls, but I mean, mainly Ross. And I have a few online sources as well. I'll even buy stuff eBay to, you know, reflip on eBay afterwards if there's certain items that I keep an eye out for that people kind of sell them on the low, and I'll turn them around. So there's a few different ways. I'm definitely in the future looking towards getting stuff shipped to me to kind of cut out a lot of the sourcing time. That would be the ideal setup long term, but I'm kind of still trying to figure that out and just dabbling a little bit in it.
And so how much time how do you balance? I know we know you're full time. There's 5,000 listings, but what does your schedule look like for like sourcing and then pictures and listing and shipping?
So my schedule on like a broad basis is I don't have one. It's pretty much like if I don't have anything to do.
I like that.
Yeah. If I don't have anything to do, I'm just going to go to my office here and start doing whatever I see in front of me, whether that's listing, sorting, inventorying, you know, shipping out orders. I've started getting a little more of like a daily structure where I'll come in and ship out everything that I sold. And then after that, start listing, and then just kind of do it. I'll sort stuff first. So it'll be in stacks of like, let's say shirts, you know, this high. I'll tackle that, take pictures of it, come sit down by the computer, charge my phone, watch videos, listen to music while I do it, list it all, and then grab a new batch and kind of rinse and repeat until I get hungry. Then I'll go eat. Then I'll come back and kind of repeat that process again. So
Nice.
it's
So
really.
let me ask you, Ross.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Oh, good. So how's your setup, right? So you said your office. So I guess a warehouse or an office space for your items?
Yeah. So I rent a commercial space with one guy that I used to share or used to have the full-time job with. he still works there. He has his own room here. So there's 3 rooms. One is where the shoes are stored, and we have a shipping table in there that we kind of share that space. Then where we're at right now on the camera is my room, where I have shirts over here, 2 of these blue racks behind me, and there's shorts and board shorts and pants and sweaters on those. And then over here on the other side that you can't really see, there's a bunch of shorts and just kind of other miscellaneous stuff. But the whole space is 900 square feet, and we split that evenly. I have a little bit more stuff than he does, so I probably have about 500 square feet of it. So I have my computer desk here that I'm sitting at now, and then pretty much the rest of the entire space behind me is just product. So I mean, there's no space for really anything else.
Nice.
And so do you how much do you pay, I guess, per month for the space?
So all in between me and him, and by all in I mean rent, power, insurance, internet, and if there's anything else I'm forgetting when it comes to all in, that is about 950 a month, and we split that 2 ways. So I mean, let's just say 500 to make it easy, all in for everything.
Oh, that seems like a very good deal. That's a good deal.
Yeah, I mean, it's easy too, because having, like, you know, a roommate, if you will, he also needs space. I mean, it's very hard to find a space that's 500 square feet unless you're looking at storage units, which at that point you wouldn't have like the place of business type title on it where you also work out of there. So there's not many small places like that. So it was great finding somebody else that also wanted to share. So that's a tip. If anyone out there wants, you know, a space of their own and knows other people that also do, it'd be very beneficial to hop into that together and split all the costs, because it'll be a lot easier to get by doing it that way.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, that setup right there is you're really cutting costs, you know, to its minimum. And so I would assume he does eBay too, right?
Yes, he does. But he works a
Nice,
full-time
nice.
job, so he kind of does it a little bit differently. He does it as, you know, a side project where he has everything stored here, but he'll go out and source on the weekends, put everything in big plastic bins, and then hand that off to other people. Then they split the profit once it sells, and he ships it out. So he kind of does the processing, but no listing whatsoever. He's actually paid me before to list for him as well. So he kind of does a little different model, but that's based off time. You know, he's a full-time employee. He works probably 60 hours there and then spends maybe 10 to 20 on eBay.
Man, it's crazy. And I guess I know we kind of got off a little off topic on like the whole sourcing part and everything, but are you trying to go for like dirt cheap stuff as far as like going to the bins, getting things, you know, by weight, or do you go like Goodwill, I'll get shirts when they're like $1, $2, or is it kind of just I think maybe just a mix of everything, like you said?
I'll do retail all day. I will not really go to the bins. I've been twice in my life. Just like after I heard about it, I had to check it out. I found a couple good things the first time. Second time, you know, 1 or 2 good things. It's about a 30-minute drive one way for me. And it's messy in there. It's super dirty. Everyone's pushing each other. It's too hectic for my taste. And I never left there with like enough to make it feel like it was worth dealing with that.
Right.
I'll do better. You'll pay more, you know, at retail, but over time, I feel like I did better with it and also enjoyed it a lot more. So I guess the bins is really the only one that's out of the picture.
Yeah. So do you, what percentage do you have as far as brand new or used?
So 50% is used t-shirts, probably 6 to 7% is new shoes. So about 250 new shoes. Probably somewhere between 1,000 to 1,500 new items out of 5. So about 25%.
Nice.
And so you're trying to get,
what I'm moving forward that's what I want to move towards, is doing mostly new. This was like, you know, this is kind of just what I stumbled onto, the used stuff, and how I just built it up really quick. And I mean, I didn't listen to anyone's advice really, because I didn't even know there were people on YouTube talking about what I was doing. And I was like, hey, I'm gonna just kind of keep building this up. I'm making some extra money. I always wanted to be self-employed. I started a clothing line several years ago. It never really took off, but I still have a ton of old shirts here laying around that, someday I want to bring that back as another project. But that was kind of always the goal of being self-employed. And I guess once I saw a clear path to that, I just, pushed real heavily for it in the way that I knew, and then kind of started figuring out the other parts of it as I went along.
Yeah. And I think Casey over here in the live chat kind of has like some pretty good points. I mean, if you want to talk a little bit about the good and the bad about, new versus used, like the margins, obviously at Goodwill, totally different. If you're getting a shirt, $1, you're selling it for $14. But yet, like you said, you're trying to replace those with brand new items. Also, I'm guessing because probably easier to list and you get more money out of it. And higher amount of money that's coming through. I guess I want to talk a little bit about why you're kind of replacing it and what's the good and bad about having that.
Yeah. I mean, with the t-shirts, it's a lot of work to list. Let's say I sell them for $10 a piece, right? So if you list 100 t-shirts, which I've done about 200 in a day, as far as doing the entire listing, if it's pre-sorted. So the max you can make on that would be, let's say, $1,800 to $2,000. And that's not profit, that's just sales. If you could list even 100 shoes in the same amount of time, which is half the amount, I mean, you're looking at a much bigger profit for the day with less work, which is more sustainable over time. I mean, this is easy and it's cheaper I guess it's a cheaper cost of entry to hop in and do it this way. But just over time, I mean, unless you want to spend every waking hour just knocking out listing after listing after listing, that higher value items are kind of, I mean, the way to go long term. Unless you really enjoy listing. I don't personally, but if you do,
it seems like you like it. Obviously, you're just a man of focus and has a goal and got to your goal, there quick. And like you bring up a really good point that the cost of entry of like the used goods is so easy, right? And it's easier to source them and stuff like that. But I like the way how you're doing it. Like obviously you've mastered the process. Anybody that could reach up to 5,000 obviously has the you've done your some sort of mistakes during your scaling to 5,000. But I like how you're just replacing everything with new and higher items or higher value items.
Yeah.
Do you know how much is the total value of your inventory? The summary of your listing?
Right now, about 75. Between 70 and 75.
Yeah, that's still good. That's still up there. But I could just imagine when you have that focus of 5,000 items already, and then you're pretty comfortable managing that. Imagine converting that to like over $30 ASP, $50 ASP. That's gonna be like close to $1 million already once you're flipping all those stuff. That's good. I'm excited for you, man.
Yeah, thank you. Yes, I mean, I definitely learned by doing it this way. I learned the process. And once I figure out the other parts, the process is kind of already ingrained in there, and it becomes easier full time instead of just kind of figuring it out later on. And I mean, you guys both know what you're doing as well, but kind of hopping in with just very cheap items like this taught me a lot about how I work and what the process looks like, and that's definitely going to help moving forward.
Yeah, and how many items do you list all at once? Do you try to just like do listings on like one certain day and try to just knock them all out rather than just try to do it like little by little every day? Or
I usually try to not source every day. So I'll try to go out and buy as much as I can in the span of a couple of days. Bring that here kind of at the end. Usually on Sundays, I'll sort through all that and put it into piles that will make it easy when I do want to list. And then I'll kind of come in here on the days that I know like the next day is just listing day, and I'll pretty much grab the first thing I see and just start and try to do as much as I can and try to avoid, any interruptions and just kind of continue knocking that out. And then there's other days where I'll come in here and I'll have like, a 2-hour window, because it probably takes about 10 minutes to drive here from my house. So, I mean, 10 minutes here, 10 minutes back. If I have a solid amount of time, that's definitely what I'm coming here and I'm knocking out even a little bit if I do have the time.
Okay. Makes total sense. And I really want to get into the money part and how much you're making, what profit looks like, and also like in a separate section, reinvesting your money into your business. Because I get a lot of emails on that. And I know Ken's doing that right now. I mean, he's full-time, he's doing this. It's purely on eBay. So I think it's really, really good, I think, topic to kind of talk about. So when you quit, you were doing roughly like 1,000, you said, per week. Was that just in sales or profit wise?
That was in sales.
Okay. And then now that you're full-time, what does it look like?
Now it looks more like about 10 a month, around there. So 2,500 a week, more like that. And when it was 1,000, keep in mind, all of that at the time was used and bought for very cheap. Yeah. So at the time, the margins on that were very high. And I've seen the way both of you guys do it with like a spreadsheet where you kind of write down each item. That's become impossible for me at, having so many small items. And with lower dollar items, I wasn't really that interested in, writing down each one and keeping track of all that, because that itself would be a full-time job. Mm-hmm. So moving forward, that's something I'm going to be looking more at, is like the actual numbers behind it. But I'll leave money in my PayPal for about 2 weeks, and then the fees come out from one of the accounts. So one comes out on the 1st and the other one comes out on like somewhere between the 15th and the 17th. So there's always 2 weeks in between. So I'll kind of just keep it in there until the fees are paid on one, and then I'll withdraw whatever's left after that. I'll put a little bit away in savings and then spend as much as I feel comfortable with on sourcing more, and still having like a little bit left to, cover my personal expenses and some enjoyment and stuff like that there in between as well.
Okay. So roughly, let's say in the 10,000, how much do you think profit, more or less? Maybe like 5 to 6 or
somewhere around there. And it varies depending on what I sold, because if they're all new items, the profit percentage like that would be less, but the dollar amount would be higher as far as the sales go.
Yeah.
So it really just, since there's such a mix of stuff, it got really hard to kind of calculate it totally, but that's a pretty accurate guess. Yes, between 5 and 6.
Okay. And I know it's probably like, okay, well, now we're getting into like some like personal stuff, but it kind of matters when you look in the whole thing. So do you have like an apartment, house, or you have a family, or what's going on with any of that stuff? Like, who else do you have to take care of, or bills do you have?
Yeah. So I rent a house with my girlfriend and a roommate that I've rented apartments and houses with before this. I actually have a goal of buying a house kind of at the start of next year. So February, March, somewhere around there. And, kind of funneling over to that, because that's eventually where I want to put the money from this, is in real estate. Mm-hmm. And kind of go into Airbnb rentals and do this, and then also have some sort of speculation. I haven't figured it out yet, but my own product. That's the eventual goals. But yeah, to answer your question, I do rent a house currently, but I split it with 2 people, so that kind of keeps down on the cost there as well.
There we go, keeping down on the cost for everything, for all kinds of rent.
Yeah, that's very smart. Splitting it up, that's the way to go, definitely.
Yeah. So no kids.
No kids.
You're like, not that I know of.
No, it'll be a while for sure.
Okay, so good. So no kids there, no student loans, or yes?
No, I went to Arizona State University here for 3 years, and then I dropped out. Also prematurely. I just knew, I didn't want to do that. I was going to be a teacher, a history teacher, and I went on a scholarship, so it was actually paid for. I
Wow.
got real lucky there, but at the time, honestly, now I kind of regret it. I wish I would have stuck it out, just kind of switched the major to business or something like that, because I would like to go back and go for business, just to kind of be around other people that are thinking the same thing, and learn a little bit more from things besides YouTube videos and just the action itself.
What was your scholarship for? Just sports?
Just good grades.
Oh,
Yeah,
nice.
yeah. I got a 3.9 through high school, a GPA. So I mean,
Wow.
pretty close to as good as it can get. But it also, like, it just had to do with a lot of luck at the time, because at the time, Obama had a scholarship program where there was like not that many people that got accepted. If you had good grades and you did good in high school and you were just about to go into that semester, your first semester of college, the first, like, I mean, first come, first serve, like, I don't know the numbers, but let's say 1,000 applicants just
Uh,
pretty much got it like that. And
wow.
I got in on that, and as far as I know, that was the only semester that the only year, at least, that scholarship was a thing. I didn't do more research on that, but I never heard about it again. It was really just like a freakishly good luck type deal, I
Yeah,
think.
definitely. I mean, that's amazing there. But for everybody that's in the chat or watching this, definitely one thing that I actually hated that I went to college, and then because of that was my mom's wish, that was her only desire for me to finish college. I actually went into a business school, and I hated every bit of it because I was kind of hustling before that, and then now I'm realizing that, man, that actually helped me a lot with the business side of stuff. And yeah, so whoever's in school better make sure you guys finish it and everything like that is watching.
I think you're talking. Oh, are you talking to Carlos there in the chat?
Yeah, no, I'm telling I should tell him that he needs to quit.
Yeah,
He's so moody when he's in school. He needs to quit.
yeah.
Yeah, I liked the actual going to school, and I feel like I learned a lot about myself and how to interact with people, like sort of life skills. And I mean, I was going to be a history teacher, and none of that applies to what I'm doing now. So it was more the direction I was going that was wrong. I actually didn't mind doing it. It just, at the time, it was taken away from employment goal. It was taking away time from what I actually wanted to do. So it was more, for me, it was more that I just, didn't want to, thought about it for a long time, realized I didn't have to, and kind of just hopped off. And, like you said, that was kind of my parents' wish too. They weren't too pumped about that one, but I think they're okay now.
Nice. You can pretty much say that you could live pretty comfortably then, like doing eBay. I mean, you
Yeah.
not like you can't have any fun or anything. Because someone has asked, okay, so what does Josh do for fun when he's
Yeah,
not?
that was gonna be my next question because I've seen this guy travel.
Oh yeah. Well, I mean, that's my goal for sure is travel. My family, I have my dad and my grandpa, his dad, here in Arizona. But besides that, my whole mom's side is over in Sweden. And that side of the family is a lot bigger. And I'm really close with a lot of the people over there. So even when I was going to high school or college here, summer and winter break, I would fly over there and spend the entire break there. So I mean, I'd be back and forth. I'd spend 1/4 of the year there, even if I was living here. And when I was living there, I would do the opposite to come here. So it's always kind of been a little bit back and forth. Now that I've gotten older and I have more freedom and don't have a full-time job tying me down, I try to either go there or meet up with my family somewhere else in the world. So the last few years, I've met up with my mom, stepdad, and little sister in Thailand 2 times and Vietnam 1 time. And then this next July, I think the plan is Cambodia. I've also traveled a lot around Europe, but I mean, that's a couple times a year max. Moving forward, like my ideal life, I want to travel like that 3 to 4 times a year. And when I'm at home, mostly just, I mean, do what I'm doing now, just work to be able to do that. But that's definitely my idea of fun, is traveling to new, or just maybe not new, but foreign places.
All right, I gotta ask you this: what's your favorite Thai food? I'm a big fan of them.
I'm a huge fan of pad thai. I mean, I know that's probably everybody's answer, but whenever I fly there, I will eat pad thai and nothing else for the first like 4 days.
Oh, it's so different. The authentic one is so different from when you get here. What you get here.
Oh, definitely, yeah.
And you talked a little bit about pretty much renting clothes because you wore them and then sold them back. Are you like a materialistic guy that like needs like flashy stuff or anything, or do you think that kind of helps to not really be like that so that you can go full time and quit and stuff, like on that full time job?
I think like probably somewhere in the middle, because I like to have nice things, but I'm not gonna buy those nice things unless I can sell them for what I bought them for. Like I don't want to buy something nice and lose, you know. Like I mean, so I have a huge watch collection. That's another thing. Before I did clothes, I would buy watches. I don't know if you know the brand Nixon.
Oh yeah.
But I would buy those on eBay and then wear them for a while. I'd list them on eBay and Craigslist. There wasn't, you know, OfferUp or Facebook Marketplace at the time. I would just list them on there and be patient. I would list them high, not expecting to sell them right away, so that I could wear them for a little bit. And then when they finally sold, I would have no trouble parting with them because I doubled my money and I got to wear something nice for a while.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I definitely don't go out and spend my money on a bunch of stuff for myself, but I do buy expensive things because I've trained myself to find them so cheap.
Yeah.
I guess that's a good thing that you actually buy something that will hold its value. And you know, that's me with cars. I've never lost money on cars. Maybe just my cars that I have here in the US, but when I was back in the Philippines. And that's what my dad actually told me. We never buy brand new cars, we buy them used. Because, you know, it's just basically putting gas on it, or if you have to rent it at a really low rate. But yeah, that's a really good trait to have for everybody that's listening. You know, Glenn brought it up. You know, you really don't have to be that materialistic. At the end of the day, you know, there are things that are so much more that will give you joy and happiness than material stuff. That will eventually lose its value if you're not smart about it.
Oh yeah, cars. And the thing with clothes too is that like you lose weight, you gain weight, or like doesn't even fit you anymore, and you're like, oh man, like I only wore it like 2 times, or I guess situations. What else? Other thing I was gonna talk about when it came to clothing, or like just things go like out of style, right? Like something was really cool at one point. Yeah, trends. Next thing you know, it's like kind of lame to wear it, and now you're like, I only wore it 2 times, and then now you're just kind of stuck with it.
I find so much stuff too, especially if I do, you know, the used clothing. Every time I'll find 2 to 3 things that I like and, you know, would like to keep for myself. And since I buy them so cheap, usually I do. And then if I don't end up wearing them after, I have to go through my closet every couple months and just, you know, get rid of stuff I don't wear, even if I like it. But you were saying you kind of, you know, sometimes you lose weight or gain weight. I have like the left side of my closet, I have this like pocket of awesome t-shirts that are too small for me, like just in case I lose some weight, so like I can fit them. And then I have like the perfect section that like fits me now, and then I have like a bigger section like just to be ready. And then if you know if it never happens, I can just sell them. Like it's, you know, they cost $2. I can still sell them for $10 down the road. I'm just kind of holding on to them just in case.
Nice. That's pretty funny. And let's talk a little bit about your area where you live, Tempe. So we know some of the hustlers that are out there, Jeff and Liz and G Jasso and A Bebe and everybody else we met out there. There's a lot of competition. There's also a lot of stores, Tempe, Phoenix area. Let's go to like Arizona Mills. How often do you go there? Quite often or not really?
Not really. I probably stop in like once a week just to kind of look around a little bit, usually over the weekends. It's I mean, it kind of depends. If I have some free time, I'll go there. It's pretty close to the gym I go to, and there's a post office like fairly close to there as well. So if I go to the gym and the post office and I have like an extra hour, it's super convenient to just pop in there. And because you saw that when you were there, there's a bunch of different stops in a really small area. But I mean, I kind of have my own route close to my house if I'm planning like a full day. And as I was saying earlier, I mean, there's as much as you want to find, really. I've heard a number, I don't know if this is entirely true, but I've heard there's 52 Goodwills in the valley. And I mean, I know
Wow.
for
Yeah, there's a
there's
lot.
yeah, I mean, there's 10 that I can get to from my house within 14 to 15 minutes, easy. Probably 12 that I can get to in that time.
Yeah, it's crazy.
I mean,
A
same
lot
with
of
Ross's.
stores.
Oh yeah, they're everywhere. It's kind of just how this city is laid out too. I mean, everything's on a grid network. All the streets are pretty straight, and every intersection has 4 corners with mostly stores. And I mean, there every 3-4 miles, there's guaranteed to be a Ross, Marshalls, TJ Maxx, something like that. I mean,
Yeah.
they're literally everywhere.
And what about so getting into those stores like Nike? Okay, so Nike clearance store we know because we went to that one. Do you go to that clearance store that often, or do you find that clearance store is like, it's okay? Because when me and Ken went to certain clearance stores, they were just like a hit or miss.
Uh-huh.
How are you with clearance stores, the Nike clearance stores?
I mean, that one's kind of the same. It's also hit or miss. I think it's just one store isn't necessarily a good store. Just what they get in would be a good or a bad shipment. Because there's 3 of those stores around here. That's like the most popular one, I think. Then there's one to the south, which is closer to where I live. That one I don't do that well at. And then there's one like a fairly decent drive to the north. I've only been there a couple times, but one time I did fairly well. The other time I left empty-handed. So I mean, really, it's hit or miss all the time.
And when
But I
Josh
do
goes, oh
better
yeah, go ahead.
there.
Oh, you do better there?
Yeah,
Okay.
I do better there than at, let's say, Ross Marshall's, that type of deal. Maybe it's just
Okay.
because I know more about those kinds of shoes than the kinds of shoes that I'm finding at, the other discount stores.
Yeah. And so when Josh goes into Ross, what do you like to go to first?
I definitely hit the shoes first.
Okay, men's shoes.
Yeah, men's shoes. I did women's shoes for a little while, not first, but like right after that. But I honestly don't do that at all anymore. I don't know if I just feel weird walking around in there with like this crazed look on my face, like where are the deals at? And like, these ladies are just hunting for a pair of high heels and they're like, who's this guy? But I definitely go there, and then like the clearance rack, I'll look at some hats. I've been buying like socks and stuff like that lately. I'll go to the jackets for sure. Sometimes jeans, they'll have like really high-end jeans. Sometimes you get lucky with that. But I usually don't spend too much time in a store. I mean, I don't go through everything. I'll look at the shoes for sure, and then kind of just like what I'm in the mood to look for after that. And I'm out of the store in 20 minutes.
Okay,
Most of the
nice.
time.
And then Burlington, you said you only went, I guess, that first time that we went. So you don't really go to Burlington too much then?
Well, I went there and they actually opened one up. There's an intersection that's 2 miles from my house, 3 miles. But there's Ross, Marshalls, and they just opened a Burlington in that same square. And I
So all
went
3 of
there.
them.
Yeah, I went there 2 weeks ago maybe, and the Burlington hadn't opened yet. But I just like heard on the radio the other day that I guess they opened now. So now I kind of want to go check that out just to see. But yeah, I mean, there really just hasn't been one around on my radar that I knew where it was or that I thought of, because there are, like I said, so many stores that I haven't necessarily been looking for more stores.
Yeah. Yeah, there we go, Ken. So Tempe, Arizona, out hustled
Out hustle what? Number
100. We're gonna have to go and see what they got over there. But there's a lot of competition, like I said, because Jeff is out there and Jeff has been doing a lot of hustling.
Yeah, we gotta stay away there. Jeff is there.
I actually talked to him like probably a week ago and suggested that once my buddy was here visiting from Sweden, but once he left that we should get together and do like a little sourcing day, and he was up for it. So I'm gonna reach out to him here pretty soon. That could be pretty cool.
Oh yeah, for sure. We need to see what you guys find out there in those stores. Yeah, Jeff's here in the chat. Sorry guys, Josh can't see who's in the chat. We don't want to push the camera limits and his computer, so we're like Just kind of.
It is from 2008, so
Yeah.
you know, you gotta be careful with it.
Only a
Yeah.
couple of years, it'd be vintage.
Yeah. Yeah, so he can't really see, but yeah, Liz is out here too in the live chat saying what's up. So I guess any last stuff you want to say, but I probably want to just kind of close off with like, what are some tips for the rookies out there? Maybe they're selling, maybe they have like 20 live items, 50 live items. They really want to, I mean, eventually they want to do this full time. Like that's their thing. Like, what are some tips that you would probably like, let them know?
So I guess the one thing that I've thought about that I haven't really heard too many other people talk about, I mean, if you have the plan to make it big, and this is the mistake that I made. I didn't really plan to make it, a big business. I just kind of added stuff as I found it, got obsessed with it, and kept growing. But because of that, I didn't have any processes in place. And because of that, now I'm having to go back and like edit numbers and throw like inventory numbers on items that I already have listed, and kind of like delete items from one account and put it on the other, just so everything's organized and like in the right place. So it's gotten to be this big mess. So I would plan before you grow to that point that becomes a hassle, to put like those kinds of processes into place, so you know where things are at, regardless if you have 50 or 100,000 items, you're able to find them.
Yeah.
Because I used to sell items and it only happened a few times, but I would spend a half an hour trying to find it. And I had to cancel once, but there were a few times where, I almost canceled. And then I said, you know what, I'm going to go in and dig through every item I have until I find it. And finally, I found it and shipped it out. But I used to sort shirts by color and then like by category of brand. So whether it was like surf, skate, streetwear, like Ralph Lauren and the kind of like higher end, like dress type brands, I would throw those brands in one pile, and then I would have to look through those piles when I found it. Now I have a number that I go directly to the number. And I mean, there's no missing it. It's just right there every time. So that kind of stuff is helpful. Maybe not at the beginning, but it will save you a ton of time moving forward.
Yeah.
And I put a couple of things aside here to show. I don't know how well it shows on the camera, but here's like an Adidas shirt. I put a sticker like this on it.
Nice.
It has a number right here. So this one's 7,721, which is like the most recent t-shirt. That one just goes on top, and then I'll grab another shirt, sticker that, throw it on top, and stack it up. And I have them on racks like you see in the background, where I mentally know where certain stacks start, and I'll just go directly to that. Once a month, the sell-through is enough to like kind of have to consolidate them into smaller piles. But that's, in my eyes, a great system. It's been working awesome for me. And then I do the same thing for shorts. And then for shoes, I keep them in these. Put a little label right here where I write the inventory number, the name of the shoe, the size, and the color, so that just by looking at it, I kind of know what it is. I sell some shoes on OfferUp and Craigslist and places like that as well. So if I sell them there, I need to be able to find them without having to open all these boxes, which these are fantastic to store shoes in if they don't have the box. You can stack these from the floor to ceiling and they're not going to break, and they're entirely free. So I stack all my shoes that don't have boxes in these guys. Sorry, USPS, but it's happening.
And do you usually ship in those too, or do you use the other ones, or what do you usually ship them in?
Usually the mailing box, like the shoe sized box.
Oh, okay.
They work really well for shoes without the box, but not really with the box.
Yeah.
If it's with it, I have some decent sized boxes, like just standard brown Walmart boxes that I'll ship in, or medium flat rates if they're kind of like a slimmer shoe.
Yeah.
But I do use those from time to time.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, because that's probably the best way to go for that. And Ken, do you have like, do you put like numbers on the racks and everything that you have, or not really?
No, I actually group them by sport now.
Oh, okay.
It's easier that way, and then I actually they're actually, so if it's soccer size 9, like 10 size 9 and everything like that. I pretty much the same what Josh does. I have in there does it too. He copied it from me. But yeah, I actually pre-box everything. Yeah, those boxes are very handy. I use the box and but I usually do the modified box, the 1095 and the 1092. So whoever wants to see that, it's on my Instagram page. But yeah, that's what I do. So yeah, it's just separate by and by size.
Okay. All right. And so Josh, I keep thinking of like random stuff, but so
Don't
let's
worry.
say if you sell like 50, let's say they have a really, let's say a pretty good day, you're selling like 50, 60 items at one day. Are you like, all right, now I have to replenish these. I have to go sourcing and find like 60 items next.
Usually, yes. I mean, my plan was to always buy more than I'm selling, and I was only thinking item number, which is how I got to 5,000. I mean, it's because the price is low. It seems like a really unreasonable amount to get to as one person, unless you have, stuff that's not going to sell. I just bought as much as I could and kept listing it. But now I'm definitely going to be more careful with what I buy and only buy as many items like to keep it at the 5,000 level. So now I'll do more planning number wise instead of just thinking, how do I get as much as I can as quick as I can?
Yeah. Okay. Makes total sense. And are you planning to go to 6,000, 7,000, or are you just going to like, you know what, 5, and let's just make sure it's
I think
sustained?
I think 5. I think 5. I mean, I'd even be happy with going down from here and having less items because something I've been playing with lately, and I don't really have enough experience in it to say whether it's working or not, but I have so many different types of clothes that I want to build lots and
Okay.
sell them as lots, which I mean, that would be multiple items, but it would be one listing. And so technically my listing number would go down, but let's say I'm selling a lot for 40 to 70 bucks. That's better than selling, 5 individual items for, not that much. And then the buyer has to pay individual shipping every time.
Yeah.
I just started playing with it, so I don't know if it's going to be a great thing moving forward, but I'd be happy with even less items as long as, the dollar value was there.
Yeah. Makes total sense. And yeah, and just kind of sustaining that, I think that's pretty good. And like you said, I don't think you plan on really, I guess, expanding after that. You just plan on growing, um, I guess the money wise with new items and making more that way rather than a lot of the used items. So yeah, makes sense. And Hustlebee, anything else you want to throw in?
No, I think it's just amazing to meet somebody and interview somebody that actually really scaled it to 5,000 with
Okay.
it doesn't matter what items it is because it's the same 5,000 items. And I'm struggling to go above 1,200 right now just because of you have the sell-through rate, you can supply
But
it.
that's definitely a good problem
But
to have, though. And I
yeah,
know you're also sourcing. You have certain criteria for what you source.
yeah.
I mean, I do too, but with shirts and stuff like that, the margins are almost always there. It's just finding the right ones. For you,
Yeah.
you might find items you can flip, but you only want the ones that are, at a certain level. So it makes it harder to find big quantities.
Yeah, because my restriction is, I'm in an apartment. Everything's in
Hmm.
a thousand square feet apartment, and so like you said, I'm just growing the value, right? I've been in 1,000 listings for a while, but I've added $25,000 more within the last 2 months
Hmm.
of value, right? So that's my goal. How high can I get my ASP? Because
Hmm.
I think that's the real next challenge for you and me, right? We're on that level that we don't want to purchase more or list more or ship more, but we want to get the profit higher as far as we could be. So that to start with lower value items, I did that too when I did it, and then scale up from there because you're planning to open up a warehouse, and adding more inventory is just gonna have more moving parts and more errors, more it's just more of everything. which is what we're not trying to do is, we're trying to have more time and freedom to do all of this, all the stuff that we want.
Definitely, definitely.
All right, so we're throwing it out there for the live chat. Anybody has any last questions for Josh before we go? Mr. Papino, what's up? It says, does Josh only do T-shirts? And that was no, he does like a different mixture of things, brand new and used items, T-shirts, board shorts, shoes. So it's a total mix. Let me see. I think there was some. I have to keep on going up to see what the other questions were. Everybody else is just talking about a bunch of random stuff with Carlos and Ray here in the live chat and Hustlebee. So I'm trying to see what other questions there were. Let me see. What if someone is starting off? If someone is starting off and they were going to go to they're starting off full time. Would you, I guess, advise them to get some sort of space to rent out, or just use your house?
I would recommend using your house as long as you can, because the less you have to pay in costs, the more you have to reinvest. So if you're just at that point, I mean, you don't want to rent out a space until you're more than comfortable doing it. Like you have just more money than you need to invest, or you absolutely have the need because you don't have the space.
Yeah.
So where I was at my house, we have a spare bedroom, and I filled that to as much as I could. I mean, I have my computer in there, and then as much product as I could. Let's say it was at 2,000 items at the time, mostly T-shirts. I couldn't really fit anything more in there. And since I have roommates, I can't really start building out in the living room, So once I found the roommate in here, and we decided on a space, at first it was just kind of, speculation. We didn't think it was really possible. We didn't know what it would cost. We assumed it would be a ton. Then when we started looking at the numbers, and especially splitting it in half, it was like, okay, this is actually a doable thing.
Yeah.
But I would recommend with just like, not quitting your full-time or part-time job until you're doing better than you want to be doing. Kind of the same scenario for renting a space. Don't do it until you have to, or until you're being held back by not doing it.
Yeah, makes total sense. And everybody else in the live chat, so before we go, what I wanted to say also was, like, we all kind of tackle things differently when it comes to like eBay business. So like Ken went straight into like the Ross Finds, Burlington, Nike outlet. He spent he like got money from selling some of his personal stuff so he can build capital up. In my case, I had student loans, all of that. I didn't have a lot of capital, so I started off cheap, and kind of the same thing that Josh was doing, going to like thrift and finding stuff for super cheap and selling that kind of stuff, and then adding in Ross, Burlington, those finds. Once you have a little bit more money to use, I think that's like the smartest way to tackle it, so that you can do less work and make more money that way, instead of going to the thrift side of it and taking pictures and listing and finding stains and rips and tears and all of that. So yeah, it's kind of cool seeing what everybody kind of went through and see how everyone's kind of transitioning in. But yeah, thanks Josh for coming in, and we went over an hour, so I don't know if it felt like that, but we did.
Yeah, that's awesome. I didn't think I could talk for that long, but I guess I can.
It was fun. It was pretty fun.
Yeah, definitely. Thanks for having me, guys.
Yeah, so we're going to try to go, and when we do go to Phoenix, which eventually me and Ken plan on going everywhere. So when we do go to Phoenix, let's see if we can get a little mix-up of little out-hustle tag team of me and Ken, and maybe you and Jeff can kind of team up. And we can do a little, we can do a little 2-on-2.
Area versus people that don't know the area.
Yeah. Yeah, they'd be pretty cool. And then next week, Wednesday live show, Smash or Pass with Hustlebee, Ross Finds again. Everybody seemed to like that show a lot, so we're gonna do that and try to do that once a month. So maybe even give away something also. So we'll do that.
We'll definitely give away something.
Yeah, for sure. All right. Thanks again, Josh. Anything you want to say before you go?
No, that's it, man. We covered it. Thanks again for having me. It was great talking to you guys.
All right, appreciate it. And Hustleby, any last words besides go out and get it?
Go out and get
All
it.
right. See
Again.
you guys. Again. See you guys. Go out and get it.
All right. Later, fellas.